Welcome back to the Fox Den, FAWKES news. Lots going on in the news today. Iran firing missiles into Israel, Israel firing missiles back. The death toll is climbing in these hurricanes. The strike is heating up. Guys, listen, if you listened to my earlier today show about the strike, I told you this morning before it was trending on Twitter, I said, now is the time to go get gas in your car. I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being sensational. Now is the time to start collecting minor things. Don't panic. But now what is trending on Twitter is this Costco panic, and people are already flooding and buying in bulk. All the hoarders are out there. So guys, listen, I can't stress it enough. If you are an FAWKES news fan, I encourage you to please get ahead of the game and follow me here. This is news you're not going to get from mainstream media. This is an interesting article. It's something that we're a part of, our Fox Media Network, along with Anti-Hero Podcast, Failure to Stop Podcast, Donut Shop Podcast, Two Cops, One Donut Podcast, is all a part of a large festival to promote PTSD awareness and mental wellness. Is taking place in Orlando, October 18th and 19th. And now this is to build morale, to entertain, and to inform first responders and veterans and raise money for PTSD and mental wellness. Starts off with a comedy show and then goes on to a rock show. And then all of a sudden, as all these special guests start to line up, the woke mob decides that they have a problem with one of those guests and then decides to take it upon themselves to reach out to as many media outlets as possible to then cancel or have the event canceled. And joining me today with a special guest is founder, creator of the Anti-Hero Podcast and the Shell Shock Festival. This, I believe, is Shell Shock number 2. And, Tyler here is going to answer a couple of questions that I have now. This event has already made USA Today. Several metalhead articles have started to cover this. And so I guess first and foremost, thank you so much, Tyler, for coming on the show. I have to start off with my first question tonight being, I think the woke mod is mostly upset about Kyle Rittenhouse. But before we get there, tell us a little bit about Shell Shock and who all is invited to this festival, if you would.
Yeah, Shell Shock's a PTSD charity and awareness event. We had the bands lined up pretty easily, but we had a lot of people reach out to us and say, how can we help? What can we do? So they're not musicians. So we're like, hey, spread the word, show up, and boom. They're like, we'll show up. We'll definitely come. But so it's not just Kyle Rittenhouse. I mean, Kyle Rittenhouse is one. We have Platinum Mike Perry. We have Conservative Anthony. We have King Pix Media, all huge. Mike Perry is a UFC fighter, and the other two are huge social media influencers. We got Dennis from Street Cop Training coming. We got all kinds of people going there. And one of them is Kyle Rittenhouse, who extended his, hey, what can I do to help? And I said, hey, man, put the word out, show up. And he did. And this was posted weeks ago. Every band knew about this. This was not a surprise where no one was not doing their due diligence. Everybody, but they wanted that money and they wanted to play. So it's our show. It's our show. We can do whatever the hell we want with it, So they didn't want to make a stink about it because they're like, well, we are being hired to play a show. That's like the fucking catering company saying, yeah, we don't believe in your morals, so we're gonna not do your, it's the same thing.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember that there was a case, and I don't remember how the case played out. Maybe I'll drop some show notes in here as I do a little bit more research. But I do remember a case, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, where some homosexuals were getting married and they wanted a wedding cake, and they went to a Christian bakery, and the Christian baker said, this goes against our morals and we cannot make you the cake. And I remember just, the woke left trying to cancel them, trying to sue them. It was a long drawn out lawsuit. I don't remember how it played out, but I don't see that this is any different.
No, it's not. I mean, it's never been done before. All of this is new. A band. I mean, there's no case law. There's nothing to go off of when a band drops off a bill and stiffs you for your money because they're blaming their beliefs, right? Well, that hasn't happened yet, so no one really knows how to handle it. But they owe us money. And we don't, what lawyer do you get for that? A contract lawyer, a music lawyer, an entertainment lawyer? There's all kinds of lawyers. We don't know.
Possibly Jonathan Emord, who is a constitutional litigator.
There you go.
We've had him on the show before. He's a magnificent a person and human being. Maybe it's somebody we can reach out to. But I want to go back. I remember you told me that one of the texts, you shared me the text. I'm not going to read it out of respect for you and for whoever sent the text. It's a privacy thing. But in general, what the words were is that they believe in diversity and inclusion, and that this goes against their moral and ethics, and that they believe in diversity, and they believe in this. They believe that this wasn't diversity. You're saying that Shell Shock is pretty diverse. As I see it here, you guys have a homosexual host, a married gay man hosting the entire event. I'm really good friends with conservative Anthony. I think he's a perfect host for the event. You have 3 comedians. I happen to be one of them, and I'm more of a libertarian than anything. But I know the headliner is a good friend of mine, J. Darrell White, who seems to be more of a leftist leaning comedian, but he's a man of color. He's a very dark black individual. There's no question that he is a person of color. And then we have a black female conservative, Margaret Owens, who is also entertaining at the comedy show. And then, of course, you said you have this big array of guests coming to the show. So I don't understand. Is it diversity? But unless it's supporting of the police or kind of a conservative agenda, is that when it becomes not diverse, Tyler?
It's the all-inclusiveness people, except the people that they don't want. We would let anybody in. One of the bands walks around with a support your local outlaws shirt because he's doing his hang around time trying to be an outlaw, right? So that's fine. It's a shirt. He wears a shirt that says support your local outlaws, ACAB, with a gun on it, right? Okay, I don't care. Come play. We want you for the music. He was like, hey man, there might be a lot of outlaws there. They support us. Cool. There's going to be a lot of Green Berets, Navy SEALs, and cops there too. And he goes, well, that might be bad. I'm like, well, it's not. It's a concert where everybody can go and hang it and have a good time. So the problems were never us. We were open to everybody. All right. It's the people that preach being tolerant and accepting to everybody who are actually the worst at discriminating.
Let me ask you this, Tyler. You said that the bands agreed to come on the show and they knew who the lineup was. What do you think changed in the band's minds? It seems like they were happy taking the money. You were pretty transparent about what the event was about and what it was supporting and some of the guests that were going to be there. What do you think changed that made the band all of a sudden, just a couple of weeks out, say, not only are we not going to do this, but then went to several media outlets, one media outlet calling this a far right wing extremist gathering that they weren't familiar with?
So you have to break it down. The headlining band, Evergreen Terrace, they're a liberal band. Most bands are liberal, to be honest with you, but the singer is off the rocker liberal, right? I don't care. And it didn't bother me. We hired him to play motherfucking music. That's what we hired him to do, not get his political stance or care about ours. Somebody shared a post that was probably in poor taste of Kyle Rittenhouse post-shooting with his hand up like this, flagging, like getting the attention of somebody, right? Well, the post read, if you're going to Shell Shock, raise your hand or something like that. And it made it to the singer, who went unhinged. He was unable to be calmed down. He told our event coordinator they are out. She was like, he was kind of polite, but there was no talking with him. There was no negotiating. The booking agent called me and said, dude, bro, I don't know what the hell is going on. What happened? And so I explained it to him. He goes, all right, let me talk to the band. The band's still a little level-headed. It's the singer that's all fucking being dramatic and stuff. So he goes, let me go talk to the band. Would you consider not having Kyle Rittenhouse on? And I said, yeah, we'd consider it. We'd consider going to talk to him. Well, I also have to talk to my entire team of people. That's not my decision to make, but we will consider it. It's a business. I'd consider me not being there if it was what's best for business, right? I'd consider it. Well, the band took it as, hey, please stay. We'll drop Kyle Rittenhouse for you. And that's not what happened. That's not how it went down. So the band was unable to control the singer and convince him to stay on the bill. They out. And then it was a trickle effect. right? The next band was a band called Southpaw. Uh, these guys are the ones that have they're a hardcore band out of Jacksonville. They wear the ACAB guns, kill your local pedophile type stuff like that. They're all about that stuff. You got Kyle Rittenhouse, probably the biggest 2A advocate you could find right now, and he's actually killed a pedophile. But yet he's got to go. We can't have him. We can't tolerate him. It blows my mind. I could go down the list. So they drop out. The next band to drop out is a band called Let Me Bleed. The singer is one of my good friends, Eddie. He really let me down. He really disappointed me. As the bands were dropping off, I at least expected a text from Eddie, because the woke mob's getting to these guys. The woke mob's threatening these bands, bullying them into making these decisions, because they weren't going to drop out at first. There was some talks. The bands underneath Evergreen Terrace, there was some talks, and then all of a sudden I got the phone call. We're out, dude. Sorry. Let Me Bleed. The singer, instead of texting me, my friend, instead of texting me or calling me, he puts out an official statement. They're out. All right. I found out later. Oh, so he decides to tell me that, oh, this is my bass player, man. He's unhinged, dude. I can't control him, man. I don't know. And I know that band, and I know Eddie. You can't fart and Let Me Bleed without Eddie telling you can do it. Eddie, the bass player that he's referencing, Eddie told him, you're not playing guitar anymore. You're playing bass. And he made him do it. And he did it. And he didn't want to. So that bass player having an opinion about a show that's not the reason why they're out. Eddie was worried about what comes with the mob. He was worried about being canceled. Right. So I found out later the bass player in Let Me Bleed, Dan Cassie or whatever, I didn't do my due diligence. I should have. He's an active communist and a communist sympathizer, saying that the left really fucked up when they tried to kill Trump. They should have done better. And he's posting this shit. And I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, but I think in your defense, you've had a lot of characters on the Anti-Hero podcast, people who are anti-heroes. Again, I don't have a problem with two sides of the story. If you play good, I went to a Rise Against concert. The very little of what they preach, do I really agree with, or do I fly under the flag that they fight under? But I still like the music, and I've gone to look Bad Religion. I mean, politically, I don't align with Bad Religion, but I don't suffer from this weird Trump derangement, conservative derangement, but it's not even a Trump derangement. The left did this with Bush. It's really funny that the left has kind of turned out to see Bush's dreams and Dick Cheney's dreams come to fruition with their war in Iran and Israel. This was a Bush Dick Cheney dream that is now happening under this administration, which, by the way, is endorsed by Dick Cheney and proudly, according to Kamala Harris, endorsed by Joe Biden. So, very hypocritical of all of them, but the hypocrisy doesn't stop there. And so, I call it this, like, I don't know if it's this right wing. It's just literally that's what it is. It's a right-wing derangement syndrome. It is an illness. It is a sickness. And so even when they are literally on the side that is completely pro-war now, they can't see through the Trump derangement syndrome. But going back to what you said about these bands and the woke mob, what was, you guys, USA Today reached out to you guys, and, I know there were some talks among the team. And how did that go down today before the USA Today article came out? And I'll read the headline of the article here shortly. Thought it was well written. I thought it was a good article from USA Today. How do you think that planned out? And kind of like what did you guys do when you got that call that USA Today wanted a statement from you guys?
Well, I knew this was all going to happen. This was all supposed to happen. There's never been anything like shell shock before. The only thing that I didn't know was going to happen was all the bands backing out. The value of men that I had holding this up were all going to plummet within an evening, right? No one stood for it. One band stood as long as they can, and they backed out today. They're like, oh, well, they don't. I don't blame them. I wasn't forthcoming to them with all this stuff. We're rebuilding this whole thing. We've got so much support, but the USA Today thing, I was worried. But we've been at it all day long, all yesterday, all Sunday. We've been at it, building this back up. I knew that things like USA Today would come. I knew that, I was ready for it. I had my statement out, and my statement was very cut and dry. And it's that we are not going to tell anyone that they cannot come into Shell Shock. It's open for everyone. We do not discriminate, which is what the ban wanted us to do. They wanted us to say, hey, people can't come in here because they're right wing.
Yeah. I want to close it on this. Listen, it's something that we deal with a lot. It's especially in a time that's been hyper politicized. There are men of principle in this world, and then there are men of business. And I think that a lot of people have chosen to set their principles aside for monetary gain. I don't want to do this because if I lose this grant because I don't meet DEI, then I won't have money to then build a park that hundreds and hundreds of kids will benefit from. I don't want to come out of my shell and say this because if I lose this grant or if I lose these customers, I would say that you leave it on this. If you're a business owner, you have to first ask yourself, are you a man of business or are you a man of principle? And if you're a man of principle and there's something that you fundamentally believe in, then you should never go back on your beliefs before the monetary gain. That's what they call blood money. And if you're a man of business, I guess it doesn't apply to you. But I think what we lack in this country are men of values and a men of principle, or a people of principle. So I respect what you guys are doing at Shell Shock. I respect that you guys are men of principle and that the show goes on and that you never have wavered. A lot of companies would have said no comment to the media. They might not have pushed back or fought back in any way, shape, or form because they're afraid of the money. You guys pressed on. You said we're men of principle. The show goes on and we're going to stand by everything that we believe in, which sounds to me is the exact definition of diversity inclusion. I mean, you have communist bands, you have conservative bands, you have Democrat comedians, you have Republican comedians, black, white, gay, straight. It sounds like you guys are being diverse. Before I let you go, Tyler, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening. How can we support Shell Shock? When is it? How do we get tickets for it? And what's the next step?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's shellshock.eventbrite.com is where you can get your tickets. If you can't go, if you're geographically, you live out in California, Hawaii, you can't go, you can donate at our GoFundMe. If you go to GoFundMe and you just type in Shell Shock, it should pop up. I don't know the exact link right now. I can send it to you. Maybe you can put it in the description of the video. But all those donations will go straight to the Cat 2 Foundation. We're going to be auctioning off a Beretta that's custom made for Shell Shock that was donated by Beretta and Howell Arms. All of that money straight to the nonprofit to be able to help out first responders with PTSD. So anything like that it would be a huge help. Sharing our stories on social media, if it wasn't for people helping us out like this, we wouldn't be here today. Or we wouldn't be here right now. This shit would have ended 3 days ago when every single band was bullied by the woke mob.
Well, I'm proud to be a part of you guys' network. I'm proud to be teamed up with you guys and to be able to attend the event and also do a little bit of stand-up comedy at the event and to entertain. I've done several live shows with you, Tyler, and they've all been a blast. I love all you guys over at Anti-Hero Podcast. So there you go, guys. Here it is. One last time. It's Shell Shock Orlando, October 18th and the 19th. The comedy show is at Tactical Brewing Company. And then the music festival on the 19th is at Level 13, Orlando, Florida. Everybody is staying at the Sheridan North after parties both nights at the Sheridan North Hotel Bar. We hope to see each and every one of you there. For myself and everybody here, listen, G.I. Joe says it the best. Maybe you didn't know about cancel culture going after a first responder PTSD mental wellness event, but now you do know, and knowing is half